Hello, Covington County. It's another edition of What's Up, Covington County, and we're sure glad to have you here with us today. In the course of things, we try to bring you news about as many things and organizations and people as we can about what's happening here in Covington County. Covington County is a great place to live. It's got an awful lot of great people trying to do great things in our communities. One of those great people, I think, and it's not just because he's my brother-in-law, but because he's really been dedicated to doing an awful lot of things for what I would call the common good, is Dr. Steve Hubbard, who's sitting here to my right, and maybe your left if you're looking at it on television out there. Dr. Hubbard's a retired but not retired member of the LBW Community College faculty. He taught English out there, but Dr. Hubbard's a good and compassionate person. I know he's been a part of my family for what, 24 years now, something like that?
Yeah, 24.
Yeah. And that means a lot. You get to know a man over that amount of time. Dr. Hubbard and I have disagreed over many things over the years, and
we're still friends.
Heck, I love you, buddy.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
feel the same way.
We're I think we're kind of proof that that it's not war. It's just differences of opinion.
Yeah, it's just in a sense democracy.
Right, it is. That's democracy in action, and neither one of us have pulled a gun on each other, and it's gotten sometimes pretty heated. Now, I'm not here to say that I'm taking a side on what's happening here today, one way or another, but a lot of people know that I can be sometimes pretty conservative about things, and a lot of people know that my brother-in-law is a Democrat, which is fine with me, and he tends to be a little bit more liberal or progressive than I do. Maybe those are the words we're looking for. That doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong, but I just wanted to get that established as the ground rules. He's involved with a number of activities here in Covington County. A lot of them have to do with activating and reactivating citizens groups here in the county, so that all the voices in the county can be heard, not just a selected few. One of the things that affects everybody that I know that is alive is health care. If you're dead, I don't think it matters that much.
As far as we know.
As far as we know, yeah. And but Alabama has taken some different routes along the way to providing medical services for its citizens, and some of those things initially have been pretty progressive, and in time they've morphed into other things. And that's what we're going to talk about. Steve, Dr. Hubbard, is part of a organization called the Covington County Grassroots Alliance, and another organization called Alabama Arise. And these are organizations that generally have to say are supported by the clergy, from what I've seen in your list.
At least Arise is. I'm not so sure about Covington, at least not yet, Covington County Grassroots Alliance, but certainly Arise and the Arise Citizens Policy Project. Yeah.
They have a they talk about what they call a listening session that's scheduled to be held here in Andalusia at the Andalusia City Hall Auditorium. That's where City Hall is, right on East 39th Street, on the 14th day of August. That's next Tuesday, 2018. And the subject of it is better health in Alabama, which is something we'd all like to see. And we're going to have a gentleman down, Mike Nicholson is a specialist with over this, and Mike's going to come in and listen to what we have to say, what you and I have to say, not some guy from Montgomery that's that's got all the fancy answers and all that kind of stuff that can deflect your answer and never deflect your question and never give you an answer. He's going to be coming down here to talk about what is and maybe what could be with medical care. health here, and we're going to have this broadcast will be shown over and over again on WKNI until the day after the conference is held. But we want to encourage as many of you as possible to go to this, because it affects every one of you, whether you're on Medicare, Medicaid, or you've got your own health insurance. You're affected by the policy that the state of Alabama has regarding the practice of medicine. We would love to have the opportunity, or they would love to have the opportunity to have some providers. That's doctors, people from the medical profession, administrators even, come in and participate in this talk. And I will, when we get off line today, I will try to contact a couple of those folks and see if we can get them there. But anyway, I've done most of the talking, and we're going to let Dr. Hubbard talk now. What is the Grassroots Alliance?
Well, Covington County Grassroots Alliance is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide, encourage, promote civic education and civic engagement. The president of the Grassroots Alliance is Sherry Powell. I am currently the vice president or vice chair, and then we have other members, a few other officers as well. And I'm afraid I would make an error if I started naming the other officers.
Well, you don't want to make an error of omission and hurt somebody's
That's
feelings.
right. I'm sure I'm right about the first two, that Sherry is the chair and I'm the vice chair. And our mission, as I say, is to work for civic engagement, to work for voter participation. We have conducted a few voter registration drives, including in some of the county high schools. And I think there will be more of that in those schools and some of the other schools before the November general election. We did some in the spring before the June primaries, and we like the two Arise organizations, and I'll talk about those in a moment. We want a world, a local world, in which more people have opportunity, economic opportunity, educational opportunity, civic opportunity, and much of that, depends on state policies, particularly where low to middle income people are concerned. And nothing touches closer to home than health care and its access and affordability. And the people who are most vulnerable are people who depend on Medicaid, which is the service, the health service that for the poor.
And we're going to have to stop now, but if you qualify for Medicaid in Alabama, I'll put it not too gently, you've got down to nothing.
Yeah. And, a family of four, well, the threshold has been raised, and largely through the efforts of Alabama Arise and the Arise Citizens Policy Project, but through other organizations too, and individuals, has been raised for a family of four from $4,600 to $12,600. But that is still, that is truly poverty level living.
Oh, that absolutely is.
And it, I think one of Arise's positions is that threshold needs to be raised considerably, to the point where the working poor are covered if their employers, don't provide health care.
Well, folks, we're going to stop right here for a minute, and because we've still got to pay the light bill around here. We'll be back shortly with Dr. Steve Hubbard as we talk about health care in Alabama. Welcome back to our second segment of What's Up, Covington County, with Dr. Steve Hubbard, friend of mine, brother-in-law of mine, guy on the opposite side of issues sometimes, but a person that I genuinely love because he's such a good person, and I agree with him on a lot of stuff too. Dr. Hubbard's here to talk about something that I like to think of as democracy at its most basic level. And that's the Grassroots Alliance. Now, presently, I'm reading Jefferson's letters.
Oh, really?
And I've just gotten to the point in July of 1776. I've read, from 1769, where he first makes his appearance in the House of Burgesses, and now I'm up here, and it's talking about the committees and everything. But you realize that even as high blown as these minds, it refers to Franklin as Dr. Franklin and all these other people, that this was a grassroots movement. It was democracy. It was democracy as unseen anywhere, not even in Greece, where the model comes from. And you're reading, you realize the pace of things was slower, but the issues weren't. They're constantly back and forth over little things. For instance, in 1769, Jefferson entered into the House of Burgesses the first enactment to end slavery in the United States. And it didn't meet much success, but you find little things like that.
And this was the first in a legislative body?
Yeah, 1769, Virginia House of Burgesses. And but anyway, that's kind of a separate issue. The point is what you're asking for, as I see it, is for us to become many Jeffersons and many Franklins and many Randolphs, but not many Pearl. And, but that's part of our, this is a legacy of our nation that's been brought, that you're trying to bring down to the local level.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's a very admirable thing. I don't care which side of the issue you're on.
It's really essential. And, I would love it if our state representative and our state senator came Tuesday night to hear people's concerns. I mean, this forum is open to everybody. It is free of charge. We're not going to stay there all night. It's from 6 o'clock to 7:30. Our host, or our presenter rather, and our key person for the event is Mike Nicholson, who is who represents or serves the southeastern region of Alabama for Alabama Arise and the Alabama Citizens Policy Projects. These are dual organizations, they're sister organizations. The Arise Citizens Policy Project is the nonprofit. Well, they're both nonprofit, but the Arise Citizens Policy Project is the educational wing of the two organizations. It seeks to research and to educate the public on, particularly on state policies, sometimes federal policies that affect particularly low to middle income Alabamians. And issues often deal with health care, they often deal with education, they deal with issues like economic issues like payday lending.
Which is not an issue unless you're the one that's borrowing the money.
That's right. In human and services, public services, which would include, health care through Medicaid. It would include public transportation or the lack of it. And there are others. Those are some that come to mind. Alabama Arise is the lobbying arm of the two organizations, or the lobbying wing, to stay with my original metaphor. And it employs 3 part-time lobbyists, and
Is Mike one of those lobbyists? Is he registered as a lobbyist?
He may be. That I don't know. That's
I
something we can find out. I don't know that. But they do. They do meet with legislators particularly, and I assume with our congressional representatives and
right.
And when possible with the governor and with U.S. senators as well. but particularly they focus on the state level. It's kind of a core premise, it seems to me, with both organizations, that state policies have a great deal of impact on quality of life, and particularly, you know, if you're at the lower end of the economic scale.
Well, you know, I saw something on the BBC not long ago, and it's a situation where they're talking about a race, not black, white, or anything, it's race black. They have got about 150, 200 young people on this line, and they have a series of questions, and if you don't, you know, you can advance toward the goal line if you have certain answers, you know. But the people that are at the end of the bottom of the scale, so they don't have any of the advantages moving forward. So when the race starts, a lot of times they're 25 yards behind the guys that had all of the privilege in life. They still got to get to the same goal line, and that was the analogy they used. And I thought that was pretty effective. But one of the best analogies I've ever heard was a guy that was talking about Jim Wallace, who's
with Sojourners.
And I've read a couple of his books, and interesting, smart guy, good spiritual person. But the one that I like the most is the one he talks about going to the cafeteria, and that if you go into the cafeteria with $3, $5, $7, and $9, you all get to look at all the food, but the guy with $3 is only going to get this much,
That's
$5.
right. That's right.
So even though you get to go to the cafeteria, it's not all equal when it gets down to the end.
And that is the point about you know, particularly about taxes, which in this case state income taxes, and particularly the sales tax on groceries. It hurts. These things hurt people of lower income more than they hurt those who have plenty of money to spare. Arise does, and I say Arise, and I mean both organizations, both Arise and the Arise Citizens Policy Project, you know, have as one of their long-term goals the removal of sales tax from groceries in Alabama. Now, folks at Arise, members, including me, understand that revenue would have to be made up somewhere else.
Yeah.
That money goes to education, something near and dear to my heart, since I spent, you know, my career, my working career in public education. But that is a long-term goal, and maybe it'll be realized shorter rather than, you know, in the short term rather than maybe we're not talking, you know, 10 years down the road. Maybe we are talking 2 or 3 years, but you know, it would involve, you know, some reshuffling and probably some additional revenue from another source.
Steve, we're going to stop for a minute. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Got a great guest today. I have to look over at him and occasionally go, gosh, you're a smart guy. And he is. He's a real smart guy. And smart guys are a lot of times worth listening to. And I think today's one of the days. This is Dr. Steve Hubbard. He's a good friend of mine. He's here talking with us about the Covington County Grassroots Alliance and the Alabama Arise program and what they're trying to do here next Tuesday, August 14th, from 6 o'clock until 7:30. It's not going to turn out to be one of those things where we sit down there and they gossip all night and chase rabbits and everything else. It's going to be a listening session. And it's an exercise, in my opinion, in the basics of democracy. We've got some things that Alabama Arise would like to see Alabama do better. I don't think that there's a right-minded Alabamian that doesn't agree that we've got things that we need to do better. Now, we may not agree on what they are, but there are things that we've got to do better, and that's what you are. You know, a way that the Grassroots Alliance and Alabama Arise, as I understand it, they're nonpartisan entities.
Nonpartisan.
So you know, if you're a conservative and you feel like you'd like to have story told, be there. If you're not a conservative and you want to talk about what Medicaid or Medicare can and hasn't done, can do and hasn't done, you need to be there too. Just this is a listening section. They're not going to promise you. They're not going to get up here like politicians will. And well, that makes me mad, and I'm going to do this about that. They're just trying to find out something about the grassroots. And I noticed reading the article. I mean the donors. We kind of got a donut hole down here in southeast Alabama. We don't have a lot of people that are participating. And we got them over in West Alabama and
Central
Montgomery,
Alabama,
Central Alabama, North
Alabama.
Alabama, 150 churches.
And around Mobile as well.
Mobile, yeah. But we just kind of have a donut hole here, but I'm sure our needs are.
Some in Dothan.
Yeah,
some
they are. But you take, I didn't see anybody from Enterprise, I didn't see anybody from Elba, Andalusia.
I don't believe so.
I don't think I saw anybody from Greenville, Evergreen, Luverne. I did see one organization from Troy.
Right.
And you know, there are a lot of people there in those areas that it might not hurt to listen to.
Yeah.
And that's what y'all are going to do. And then my guess is that Mike Nicholson will take some of this information and try to craft something that you can move forward to help the people.
That's exactly the point. Yes, I mean that's what's in it for Arise, to have sessions like this. And this is certainly not the only one that's been held in Alabama. They had one, for example, in Montevallo a few weeks ago, similar to what we will have here on Tuesday evening. Arise and the Arise Citizens Policy Project have an annual meeting. It's every September. I know it's coming up. I think it's either the second Saturday or the third Saturday in the month. It's always at Aldersgate United Methodist Church, and
that's in
Montgomery.
Right.
And rather centrally located for the state. Having these listening sessions this summer will allow the Arise personnel to put their notes together and to basically be able to formulate some priorities and suggest those to the membership. The membership that comes to the meeting on that Saturday in September will also have ideas, and there will be priorities suggested from the membership. And then typically the membership will vote on issues, and usually they choose anywhere, if I remember correctly, I've been to a couple of these annual meetings, 7 to 10. There are 1 or 2 that are always priorities that the membership doesn't vote on, and one of those is expanding healthcare for needy citizens and for the working poor, and also the removal of sales tax on groceries. Payday lending tends to be an ongoing priority as well, reforming that system. Right. But then others change from year to year. So anyway, the reason for this session is indeed healthcare, and to get a better understanding of what people in various communities throughout the state are experiencing. And we especially want people who depend on Medicaid to be there, or Medicare, but particularly Medicaid, since that's administered by the state. And we would love for people in community organizations, maybe churches, that have services that they provide for needy people, whether it's a clothing ministry or a food ministry. We need these folks there, and we need the folks who use those services as well, particularly the folks who use those services to come. We'd love for healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, hospital administrators. Just speaking on hospitals for a moment, I think I'm right in saying that many rural hospitals, as well as a number of urban hospitals, really depend on Medicaid as part of their budget. And I don't want to inspire fear, but we do know of rural hospitals having been closed.
Right. And right over here to Wilcox County.
That's right. In the hometown of Governor Kay Ivey, no less. The Florella Hospital closed a few years ago, and I don't remember the specific details behind that, but I'm pretty safe. I'm saying I think that money had something to do with
And
it.
everything to do with
You know, and so hospitals are. I think I'm right in saying are often walking a pretty thin wire.
Well, you know,
Again, I don't want to inspire fear, but we need to see, I think, that we're all in this together. And you think about a hospital closing, and I don't foresee either of the two hospitals in this county closing, but if they suffer, you know, how's that going to impact any of us who have to use the hospital services?
well, you're right. We got two good hospitals here in the county. I've advocated for a long time that the burden of Veterans Affairs, hospitalization and medical treatment should be allocated to the local hospitals, especially in these. And
It would help in more ways than one.
well, you know, even though it's minimal funding, I know that, but you know, it's funding for a hospital, and that's going to keep. That would have kept the Elba Hospital open if they had been able to shift some of the burden from Montgomery to Elba. You know, that
I didn't
could,
realize that hospital had been closed.
well, it's on the borderline if it hasn't.
Okay.
The point is that there's ways you can move these funds. But one of the things, and I think this is important, and I hope that Mike Nixon will bring this, is that oftentimes the state makes it hard to get those benefits.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't tell you what those benefits are. And I'm not just talking about the state of Alabama. This could be Arizona, Alaska,
Right.
you know,
Right.
any state. It could be Vermont. It's kind of a web that you got to find your way through.
Right.
And I would, you know, one of the things that I would hope, is that by people in our community going and talking to people like Mike Nicholson, is that we'll find out, and they can present to the state, well, listen, folks, you've got this benefit, and people don't even know it because you don't know how to communicate.
That's right.
I mean, that's right. How many programs are there like that, Steve? We don't have any idea.
We don't. But I think that is a really good point, that if folks don't know of their existence or can't figure out how to apply, then we got a problem.
Yeah, you know, you could literally have the old acres of diamonds thing. You could have acres of diamonds over here they could claim, but because they can't get from there to here to there, they can't claim it. And you know, it's a sad thing.
So clarity of communication is a really important thing.
I want to say this, if it's possible, if you can get with me on maybe a weekly or bi-weekly basis to discuss this kind of thing, the way we're doing it, I think it'd be great for the community, you know, and I think we can maybe bring some guests on that can shed some light on those kind of things.
Well, there are certainly people in this town, and this is not false modesty, I promise you. There are certainly people in this town who know a lot more about the healthcare red tape, for instance, than I do. You know, you talk to any doctor and who can tell you, you know, spend an hour with you or more talking about that sort of thing, or any hospital administrator or anybody who's been in hospital administration, or then people who, you know, who provide direct services to people in need, like some of these church organizations. They know a great deal as well. But sure, I'll be glad to be a part of that. Anyway.
Yeah, I look forward to
that.
But
I can't be the sole resource, I'm sure.
No, I don't either. Folks, you'll see this on our Facebook page, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a listening session, mostly about Medicaid, and folks, don't be embarrassed to go there.
That's right.
I mean, this is not a meeting for the so-called 1%ers.
Absolutely not.
This is a meeting to have the voices of the most humble of people in our community heard. And it's a good opportunity for you to be there. And I promise you, if you don't feel like you're the most literate person in the world, I don't talk all that good.
That's okay.
There's people there that listen that good.
That's right.
They'll ask you questions. They won't interrogate you.
If I can add one thing, John, as the late former governor, Big Jim Folsom said, y'all come.
Y'all come.
Y'all come.
Well, listen, y'all come Tuesday night, August 14th, to the Andalusia City Hall Auditorium. That's at 503 East 39th Street, right by the First Methodist Church. I mean, it's hard to miss a place. Just go in the front door and you can almost stumble into the auditorium there. It's going to be a Grassroots listening event from 6 o'clock until 7:30 p.m. Be there and help our community become a better place. Thanks for watching. Steve, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And y'all, pay attention to this. This is your community. You can make a difference. And I'll see you later. Appreciate you watching our program.